Hi, I'm Miguel Consing.
I'm James Gutierrez.
Welcome to the TNT Fightcast.
I like that we have a theme song, man.
I know,
Like,
we're going to put the theme in there.
Insert theme here. no, I actually, I love that, again, it comes back to, I love that we're part of this. I love that we have a promotion. I love that we have a podcast. It's cool. It's like living out a dream of mine. I'm not gonna lie. Every time I think about it, it's so much fun.
It is. No
I'm
doubt.
not gonna lie.
I still can't believe that we have one. You know what I mean?
Dude, I'm excited. I was taking before we started shooting this one. I was taking behind the scenes pictures. I was just like, wow, look at how far we came. I mean, we only just started. If I'm being honest,
That's true.
We only just started, but it's really fun. It's fun.
It's
I'll post those pictures later.
It's surreal, to be honest with you.
But I don't want to waste any more time. Don't let me bother you with my small talk, Miguel. We have an exciting topic today. We have
we do.
Fun one. This is one that I would say is kind of requested somewhat. People talk about this. It is somewhat controversial, which is always something fun to speak about. But I want to take a step back because we look at TNT, right? You look at TNT Fight. We have two divisions, right? We have professional and we have amateur. There's another category that exists primarily in the Philippine market or in the Philippines, the Pro-Am category. And what we're going to talk about today and what I want, especially from your legal perspective, I would say, because it's a big factor in it. Want to talk a little bit about what Pro-Am is, how it's relevant, and what it means to the fight community in the Philippines. But I guess where we could start, and I guess from your professional opinion, or if I can say that, can you define some of these terms for us? Can you define what is the difference? What would you consider amateur versus professional?
Sure, no problem. So, a professional fighter is one who is licensed by the Games and Amusements Board. A fighter who is not licensed by the GAB is an amateur.
Yep. Like that.
That's pretty much it. But here's the thing.
Okay.
In the Philippines, like what you said, we have what you call pro-ams.
Yeah.
Legally speaking, they don't exist. Okay? So, pro-ams are called pro-ams because they are amateurs, meaning they aren't licensed by the Games and Amusements Board, but they're paid to fight.
Yep.
Since
Okay.
we are sanctioned by the GAB, we follow their rules. So there is no pro-am in TNT Fight.
Yeah.
Let's just clear that up. There is no pro-am. We have professionals. We have amateurs.
Yeah.
But we also take care of our amateurs. That's something we want to emphasize. We give our amateurs transportation and food allowance.
Yeah.
We don't pay them to fight, but we definitely make it easier for them to fight. Okay, so but going back to pro-am. So the term pro-am has taken on a certain meaning here in the Philippines.
Yeah, because it's different
Yeah,
abroad.
it's different abroad.
It's different abroad.
Because abroad, pro-am refers to a tournament or an event where both professionals and amateurs can participate.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
here, like I said, they're basically amateurs who are treated like pros.
Yeah.
As far as we're concerned, whenever fighters come up to us and tell us their records, they always say things like, 5-0 ako sa amateur, pero sa pro-am, like let's say 3-0 ako, something like that. All I'm hearing is, you're an 8-0 amateur. You know what I mean?
Got you,
Because
got you.
they aren't licensed, and there's
Yeah.
just to emphasize, they are a reality. You cannot get rid of the pro-am leagues. They exist.
Yeah.
They exist because people just want to put up fights.
But you said legally they do not exist.
Legally.
So
It's
does that
legal
mean,
fiction.
Does that mean it's illegal, ba?
I'm not saying it's illegal,
You're not saying it isn't though.
but it's definitely a gray area. It's definitely a gray area.
That's fair.
It's very similar to the underground fights of the in the past. Because in the past, before
Parang Fight Club. Ganun.
yeah, parang Fight Club.
Okay.
Because in the past, different gyms and groups would come together.
You're breaking rule number 1, eh?
Yeah.
You're talking about Fight Club. No, I'm saying.
I'll break all the rules now. I'm just kidding.
Hey!
No, but in the past, the different gyms, different teams,
Yeah.
they would come together and then they would compete against each other.
Yeah.
There was no, they weren't sanctioned events back
Yeah.
then because technically the GAB didn't recognize these sports back then.
Yeah.
In the past, the GAB only recognized boxing.
Yeah.
So there really was no other way for these teams to compete other than through the underground fights. And although now times have changed, the GAB now sanctions mixed martial arts, kickboxing, Muay Thai, etc. There are still organizations that do it pro-am style.
Gotcha. And taking a step back, because we keep talking, obviously we've given a shout out to the Games and Amusements Board many times. We love working with them. They are sanctioning, that's the key word,
yes.
Sanctioning the professional bouts, licensed fighters. Can you walk us through why that's important for professionals? Because that's what you're telling me, that's the big differentiator between what is considered professional and what's considered amateur. What is the importance of having a sanctioning body like GAB?
Well, the GAB makes sure that the fighters are healthy and are fit to fight. Because a fighter can't just be licensed. A fighter has to go through several medical clearances first.
Yeah.
I think you have the list with you.
Yeah,
but they have several.
It's an exhaustive list, but it's to make sure that the fighters are ready to go.
It's in fact, in one of our events, one of the fighters was denied a license because of a medical issue, and we can't blame the GAB because they're just looking out for the athletes.
Yeah.
So once the fighter passes the medical clearance and everything, and they get their license, they basically have the permission of the GAB to practice this craft and make it their profession. And fighting is dangerous. It's a very dangerous sport because people they're fighting. They're hitting each other in the ring.
Yeah.
So it makes perfect sense that the sanctioning body makes sure that everyone is fit, healthy, and are doing this willingly.
Yeah.
And also, in addition to that, the GAB also makes sure that the venue is safe, that the facilities are safe, that all the officials, including ourselves, that we're all qualified to do our jobs. So not only are the fighters licensed, but the referees are also licensed.
Yeah.
The stadium physician is licensed. The judges are licensed. Even the timekeeper is licensed.
We're licensed.
We're licensed. The announcer is licensed.
Yeah.
That surprised me.
Yeah. I mean, so, and on that one, because same. I didn't realize the announcer had to get a license as well. But I guess I kind of get it when it comes through. But how does that compare to, let's say, other locations? Obviously, in the Philippines, it is GAB. That is nationwide. Any professional sport falls under the jurisdiction of GAB. How does that compare to, let's say, like the places like the U.S., which has different, like every state has a different government?
I think each state has its own athletic commission.
Yeah.
The most popular one is the NSAC, the Nevada State Athletic Commission.
Yep.
Because most UFC fights in the States take place in Nevada,
Yep.
in Las Vegas, actually.
Yep.
So they have their own rules. And in fact, up until very recently, I think in the last 10 years, MMA wasn't even allowed in New York.
Yeah.
So now I think MMA is allowed all throughout the states. I'm not sure if that's completely accurate, but at the very least, most states. But here we only have one sanctioning body, which is the GAB.
Yeah.
So it really depends per jurisdiction.
So like anywhere in the Philippines, if it's going to be a professional event, it's got to fall under that GAB jurisdiction.
Yes, definitely.
Gotcha. And it's having worked with the GAB for our past two events and for all of our professional events moving forward, it's very helpful to have guidelines, to make sure that we have an event that is up to their standards. I mean, we follow, we helped develop our rules and regulations for TNT, but we based it a lot on what GAB's existing regulations were, because that's safety. We made the changes we made for our promotion, but every clause about safety, every clause about even the medical checks, like what's required of different fighters, it makes sense when you think about it. Yes, we understand from a fighter perspective, it is somewhat of a hassle to go through all of those, especially if you don't have a license and you're jumping to get a license, jumping through all of the different hoops that you need. We try to help, from a TNT perspective, we try to help as much as possible. But it makes sense, going back to our main topic, it makes sense why some people don't want to jump through those hoops and they kind of fall back into that pro-am kind of category. But it's not exactly, I think as we discussed, the safety is one of the big issues.
Yeah.
There's been we were talking about, there's been issues with these kind of, like from a legal perspective, what are some of the things, it doesn't exist. I'm not saying it's illegal, but it doesn't exist.
Legally speaking.
Legally speaking, but since the fact that it does still happen, what are some of the situations? Like, what could go wrong?
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, in the past, I remember I went to a pro-am event, and they're really the officials themselves weren't. I don't think they were properly briefed because it was an MMA event. So there was grappling, there was pushing up against the ropes. There was no one watching out for the fighters that were being pushed up against the ropes. So one fighter actually fell through the ropes and he hurt himself.
Yeah.
What a bad way to end the bout, right?
Yeah,
and
for sure.
He could have been seriously hurt. And plus, I don't know if he got paid for that. Because some pro-am promotions, what they do is they only pay the winner. We don't do that in TNT.
No, you fight, you get paid.
Yeah, you fight, you get paid. And if you win, you get a bonus.
Yeah.
And in another event I went to, a fighter actually got thrown through the door of the cage and he hit his head on the concrete.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was bad. Because I think he ended up with a concussion. Ooh, yeah.
And like and also because there's no sanctioning, if we go looking at the pros and cons between those two, from a pro, like it's hard to say pros. I guess you can do more fights. There's more you can do. You can get different. There's less hoops to jump. But because of those risks, those specific risks involved, like getting hurt, that our main focus is fighter safety.
Yes, definitely.
We don't want, like, if you fought last, and yes, we hear all the stories, like some of our favorite fighters. I came up fighting, I fought on a Saturday, then I fought again on a Tuesday, then I fought again on a Friday. Yeah, those are great stories, but that all happened in the 90s, the early 2000s? Like, we can't do that anymore because the longevity of the fighters
takes a toll on the body.
Yeah. Like, as in, they get the crap beat out of them, and then they try to jump back in the ring. And it just, you're not going to be able to do that time and time again.
And local fighters are tough. In fact, they're too tough for their own good.
Yeah.
Because these guys, they're very much game to fight. So someone really has to step in and say, hey, hold up. You need to rest. You need to recover.
Somebody should have told Volk that. Oh, my goodness. No, I mean, he's my guy.
But he needed to rest.
Oh,
he needed to recover.
Rest. Oh, my goodness. He's the best.
Yes.
He's the best of the best. He's the best to ever do it in the featherweight division. And he is just, I mean, he's human.
He's human.
He's human. I mean, he got clipped in the head. And then Topuria it was beautiful. I am not taking anything away from Topuria. That was an amazing knockout. But maybe he came back a little bit too soon.
I think so.
Just a little bit.
I think he needed more time to recover and, and train.
Yeah.
Because when you're recovering, you're not training hard.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah.
And, it's very difficult to have a healthy career if you're always fighting, if you're fighting too much.
Correct.
Because it takes a huge toll on the body. And, of course, CTE is a real thing that, fighters have to deal with. Because a lot of fighters, they think that, I'll be fine. But later down the line, when they age, that's when the effects of fighting kick in. And if they did not take care of themselves during their careers, then they're definitely going to be paying for it much later.
Correct.
And from the perspective of a promotion, if you don't get sanctioned by the GAB and you don't get any support from the government can step in and stop your events. I've actually seen this happen. I was in a pro-am event, and the barangay came in.
Nag-raid?
Yeah, sort of.
Nag-raid? Oh,
yeah,
jeez.
And this was because there was a lot of... the streets were blocked. There were a lot of cars that were parked along the street, and it blocked traffic. So I guess the barangay was wondering, what was going on.
Yeah.
And why didn't we know about this? Because you need to get the barangay permit to hold these events, diba?
Yeah.
So, they went to the venue and they looked for the person in charge, in this case the promoter, and they talked to him. Luckily, the promoter was able to smoothen things out, and the barangay gave them a pass because the event was already happening. These athletes, they worked hard. But the point is, if they had gotten the necessary permits and clearances, it wouldn't have had to happen.
Yeah.
So from a safety perspective, from a legal perspective, and from an operational perspective, it's very risky to hold a pro-am event.
Yeah, and like, again, using the terminology pro-am, it being so different compared to what it is abroad.
Yes.
Like that you see it in other sports as well, like pro-am golf tournaments, pro-am kind of like NASCAR racing, all sorts of, do you think, number one, is there an equivalent here in the Philippines? And number two, do you think that terminology will ever take back? Like, can we change anything?
Well, I don't know about changing the terminology into something else, but an equivalent would be those open tournaments, like the jiu-jitsu open tournaments. Because in jiu-jitsu tournaments, like anyone can participate, whether you're a professional fighter or a hobbyist, you can participate.
Gotcha.
So the concept, the foreign concept of pro-am exists here. We just call it something else.
Got it. And that could lead to, I mean, at the end of the day, as a matchmaker, fighter safety is so important. You know, using that Volkanovski example, that was still after, 3 months? That was still like 3 months. And at the highest level in a professional sport, and it was still too much. Imagine for fighters that are fighting 3 times a week.
That's crazy.
That is nuts. And we see it happening. We see some of these fighters are tough, but sometimes they're too tough for their own good. You know, and that brings it back to like kind of how we want to do it with TNT and our 2 distinct divisions. You know, I really like that we have those. There's progression. There's clear progression because there is a difference. There's a difference between being a professional fighter, being an amateur fighter, beyond just the license. It's you know, you're putting that effort. You know, because you have to go through a lot of steps to get that license. So you're putting that effort in. You are getting paid for that effort, you know, all the time in the ring, all the training, the coaches and everything, you're putting that time and it's being compensated. And then it's different from the amateurs, which, yes, you can be a fighter, yes, you know, but it is not quite there yet. I mean, the license distinguishes it, but also it's a mindset change.
Yeah.
Moving from amateur to professional.
And you know, the thing about the amateurs is that, in fact, I think amateur fighters should be proud of it because, dude, an amateur is one who does this for the love of the sport.
Hey.
Fun fact, the word amateur comes from the old Latin word amator, which means lover. You know, seriously, dude, Google it. Google amateur etymology. But anyway, the reason why amateurs fight.
What is the etymology of amateur? A person who engages in a pursuit, especially a sport, of an unpaid rather than a profession. Okay. Here we go. Late 18th century, from French, from Italian, amatore, from Latin, amator, or lover, or to love.
See? So amateurs do it for
Learn
the love of the sport.
every day. Learn something. If you knew that, I want to comment. None of you knew that. None of you knew that, but comment nonetheless. Sorry, you were saying.
It's all good. So going back to amateurs, the reason why we put up an amateur league is, one, we want to develop athletes before we recommend them to the GAB for their licenses. And they do that by proving to us that they can fight and also showing to us that they love the sport, diba?
Yeah.
Because why would you want to get a license for this kind of sport if you don't love doing it?
That's true. That's
Diba?
true. I mean, and it serves kind of like as a, I don't know if this is the right way to word it, but kind of like a tryout, so to speak. It's like not only do, you know, because we want to take the best fighters and, you know, we're going to give everyone a fair chance, but obviously for our professional leagues, we want to get the best fighters and we want to see and showcase those fighters firsthand up front in like under the lights with the TNT logo in the background. You know, we want to see what you can do when the lights are bright on you, because that's another differentiator between some of these other kind of events. You know, the pro-am events, they're not held at that caliber.
That's
I would
true.
Say. You know, and we treat when we say we treat our amateurs like professionals, we put them under that professional spotlight. You know, they are still amateurs. There's a different rule set. You know, I think that's
we can talk about that later.
Yeah, we can talk about that in a bit. But you know, that's how we differentiate. Like, it is amateur, so it is different. It's a different rule set versus the professional. But you threw me off with that. Sorry. I was like, we can talk about it, but now I want to talk about it. No, but I mean, it's really fun how we put together the amateur league, because now it's like, how do I word this? It's like the D League, you know, it is the developmental league. You know, you come in through there, you know, and we've seen it. Just Friday Night Fights. Look at Rivera. He put a statement on it. You know, you look at Choi. He won his first fight in the amateurs. Then he moved into a professional fight in TNT 2. There is that career professional. There's
a path laid out for them
to becoming a pro in TNT, and you know, we will take amateurs. It's competitive. I'll just put it out there. Everybody, I keep saying we're gonna let everybody fight, but it is competitive. I just want to say we have so many people coming through, And I am thankful that we do. I'm thankful that we have all of that. And it is, it comes back to, we want to put together the best fights for the fighters. Like I said, with the amateurs, we're putting the lights on them, but the lights also on us for putting together the right kind of events.
Yes.
We don't want to put mismatches. That's again part of the reason why a professional license and sanctioned event is so important, because in Pro-Am, when you don't have all of those licenses, it's just people that are making a decision. This person will fight this person, usually just by weight class, I would say, from what I've seen, versus a professionally sanctioned match where you have to submit the fight card. You have to, or if it's a professionally sanctioned event, the fight card is submitted to the GAB. They will review that. They will make sure that because they know the fighters as well. Why? Because they have licenses. So they will make sure that these fights should be happening. And if they are a mismatch, they're going to step in. We don't want to put together those mismatches for anything. And that's a big factor why, we're doing it the way we're doing it, and why it should be done that way.
Yeah, I think so too. It all boils down to amateur safety, which will, contribute to the quality of the fights.
Yeah.
If you have a mismatch, then the fight's gonna suck. It's either gonna be like two fighters who don't deserve to be professionals going to the ring, or one fighter getting the shit kicked out of him, excessively getting excessively beaten up.
I think the proper terminology is he took extensive damage. That's a 10-8 round.
So going to our rule set, I think now is a good time to talk about the different rules we have for pros and amateurs.
For sure. I mean, I guess it comes down to and one thing that we do a little bit different with TNT, which I like, is we do not have headgear for the amateurs.
Yes.
A lot of times you see in amateur bouts, you got the big groin guard, you got the heavier gloves, and you have the big head guard.
And the shin guard.
And the shin guards, yeah, especially for kickboxing. What we've found, like we did the studies, right? what we see is that when you have headgear on, you are more likely to take heavier blows.
Yes.
And you're more likely to throw harder too, because there's that illusion that the padding is there. But it's just like if you get hit, that's still the movement that's moving your head, and it's gonna rock, it's just your brain hitting your skull that's gonna cause the concussion. That's when the lights out happens. So it's like, boom, you're gonna take more damage. So we took that out, we focused on the standing 8 count, which I think is a great idea.
Yeah, I think it's safer for the fighters, because whenever fighters have headgear, they're braver, mas matapang sila, because they feel like they can take more. And what happens is they end up taking more damage.
Yeah.
If like a good blow lands and there's headgear and they don't fall, they go back at it, until the referee probably stops it. But in this case, because there's no headgear, the referee can immediately see if the fighter has taken enough damage.
Correct.
So the standing 8 count, it's a safety measure.
Exactly. We also put shin guards on.
Shin guards, definitely.
Shin guards are a requirement. Other things such as knees, for example.
Yes.
In the professionals, or in our professional bouts, knees are allowed to the head. You can knee, basically, anywhere in the body. We do not allow knees to the head for our amateurs. For
safety reasons.
Yeah, there's a difference between amateur and professionals. And I just want to keep stressing that. And we built these things in to protect the amateurs.
Yes.
Because this is where they're going to develop their skills. This is where they're going to get a little bit more comfortable, and we're going to see who really wants to take this to the next level. And when you're ready to start taking it to the next level, this is what that next level looks like. It is going to be, you can knee someone in the head. I've seen some amazing shots. Oh, there's it was a national team. John Claude, I want to give a shout out. John Claude.
Oh yeah.
John Claude's flying,
the video you sent me.
The flying knee knockout. John Claude. Oh my gosh. Them Baguio's built different. Those guys up in Baguio.
Baguio is
built
fight down.
different. But it's and we'll be there. We'll be there eventually.
We'll get there, guys.
Hopefully soon you'll see us there. But we'll get there.
We'll get there.
But it goes back to John, that match was still technically an amateur match.
But we saw how devastating a knee can be to the head.
Headgear. But yeah, it's a devastating shot. But for us and the way that we do our events, we're taking it out. But what another factor when we look at the pros and we look at the amateurs, which this may sound a little bit selfish as the matchmaker, because, and I've complained about this before, it is hard sometimes to make fights because of the records that are out there and not being able to verify anything. So when you have we are meticulous with our record keeping, but for professional bouts, sanctioned by the Games and Amusements Board, that where all fight cards, all results get submitted, it makes it that much easier to have a national record of where this fighter stands in the different sports that they're fighting in. And, as a professional kickboxing organization, I welcome competition, bring it on. But if there are other professional kickboxing organizations out there, now you have some, we're building those, we are building those standards, those records. Our goal, we want the goals of these fighters to be the best that they can be, and be the best, to be the best rather, you have to be able to showcase that. You have to highlight it. You have to, that's what the record is for. If we don't have a way to say that this record is legit, how can you really be the best?
That's true. It's very difficult to verify records, especially amateur and pro-am records in the Philippines.
Yeah.
Because there is a lack of fight tape.
Yeah. This shaky fight cam right here.
I mean, we appreciate the footage that the fighters send us, but it's
Left, right.
But it's hard.
The corners yelling and everything. This is so funny.
Dude, sometimes it's funny when they submit footage, but we don't know who they are because it's so grainy. I mean, you're just gonna assume that it's the guy who won.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's that's what I love about how I keep saying I love this, but I love how we've set it up, because everybody who's coming into, and I guess this is also a benefit of focusing on kickboxing for TNT, is that there are no, we're first.
We're the first.
We're the first, and we're building out ways, and we by establishing a professional bout system, by keeping our own records, by making sure we have our own rankings and standards, by working very closely with the Games and Amusements Board to make sure that we're upholding professionalism and we are making sure that our events are up to the standard that it needs to be, it's elevating the entire sport.
Yes.
Not only the sport, but combat sports as a whole. And, these are some things that we've done that we hope start to trickle down across combat sports. It's if we start to see change, it's because we've started to lead. We started to lead that change, I would say. But we need everyone's help to get that done.
Definitely. And really what we're doing here is we're just ensuring the longevity of these fighters.
Yeah.
Because we love our athletes.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be in this business if we didn't care about the sport and the athletes.
For real.
And there are athletes out there who have been fighting for a very long time, and we just want to make sure that they can still keep fighting and they can do so and remain healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. And it helps also, because as a fight fan, right? I love watching fights. I love watching any kind of fight. I would love watching at the highest level, watching at UFC 300, watching in Vegas. That would be so much fun. But I like watching a backyard brawl as well. And that's the thing. As a fight fan, I get why people want to watch these different things. But the way that we can help the sport grow, the way that we can help focus on professionalism is by, focusing on patronizing also those events that focus on fighter safety.
Yes.
Because you're going to have more events longer term if the fighters can continue to fight, if they're not fighting every week. And you got to know the difference between what a professional fight is and what a pro-am fight is.
Yes.
Because I don't think as a common fan, you might not be able to tell the difference. There's some clear definitions. If the door doesn't look like it closes properly on the cage, you might be at a pro-am fight.
Yeah, the GAP does that. They check the ring.
They have to, yeah.
They check the cage.
Yeah.
They check everything to make sure that the fighters are competing in a safe environment.
Exactly. Yeah. So at the end of the day, professional. The reason why we want to do it professionally is because it's just better for everybody.
Yeah, we care about our fighters.
Care about our fighters. We care about ourselves.
We care about ourselves. We don't want to get in trouble.
We care about the legal ramifications, but most importantly, we care.
Yeah.
And I think that's as good of a place as any to wrap it up. Miguel, why don't you talk us out?
All right. So, guys, thank you again for tuning in. You can catch our other episodes on Spotify and YouTube, and watch out on our social media pages for our free Friday fights, as well as other content we're going to bring out. I'm Miguel.
And I'm James.
Handa ka na ba?